Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Red Gaming Cetacom video, we're going to be discussing Ashes of the Singularity, specifically a patch which has just popped up, which improves the support for AMD's Ryzen CPUs. So, for those of you who aren't aware, I have been doing an awful lot of benchmarking over the past few days with a Ryzen 7 1700 as well as an MSI X370 Carbon, and as you can possibly imagine, it's a very nice board. But subsequent BIOS revisions have improved it immeasurably, and this is very much the same for Asus as well, where our X370 Prime board has also just had a BIOS revision, and that also improves performance. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, of course, is to say that AMD's hardware is still very early. And yes, I have an awful lot to say about the performance of Ryzen, especially in games, because a number of you are messaging me, and actually one individual, he didn't give me permission to say his name actually, but I was talking to him quite at length yesterday on Facebook. He'll know who I am, he'll know who he is rather, that's the better way of putting it. And I was showing him a couple of my benchmark results, showing different versions of BIOS revisions on and the performance with different memory configurations. Suffice to say, it is well, things are early. And AMD did promise that they are, of course, working with developers. They've given out hundreds of kits to developers to improve the code running on their hardware. One of those, of course, is Bethesda. They are in partnership now with AMD, and that's going to be interesting. But here be the crux of the matter. Oxide Games are also improving performance with Ryzen, and they have just released a patch for Ashes of the Singularity Escalation. Now, this patch took them about 400 work hours. That's not one person, of course, that would be a multitude of different people working together to tweak the engine. And what happens? Well, performance increases by about 30%. Now, I have been doing a little bit of internal testing, which you can see playing throughout this video. I've done it with the faster memory timing of 2667 as well as 1333. And you can see an immense difference in frame rate on just how memory sensitive Ryzen is. But also, I'll pop up a couple of images from Tom's Hardware as well as Tech Power Up, and you can see that their results are also pretty conclusive. Now, that isn't to say that the performance is exactly where it will be in the future. I did mention that I also had an interview with someone from Nvidia. His name is, of course, Neil Trevitt, who also works as the head of Kronos, who are, of course, responsible for Vulkan. And in the interview, which will be up in the next day or two, it's a very long interview. It's about an hour long of audio, so I do need to make a couple of cuts here and there, and obviously not just have it where it's a blank screen, so it requires some video editing. And of course, because we're working on the Ryzen review and also a GTX 1070 from Zotac and a few other bits, it's kind of slowing things down. But suffice to say, in his interview, he did tell us that, as processors become increasingly more common to be, large number of cores, large number of threads, it's not just that games improve. I mean, this isn't like, at the end of the day, who needs a game running at 300 frames a second? It's just not really a thing that's required. Virtual reality, yeah, 90 frames a second is good. 120 if you're using a requisite monitor, 144 if you're using a really snazzy monitor. But generally speaking, most folks are going to want a game, of course, which improves the graphical fidelity, artificial intelligence, and that's really where these processors are going to come down the line. Anyway, this is good news from the point of view of AMD. The only issue is, of course, it requires support. Now, I do have an awful lot to say, of course, about Ryzen, and honestly, I'm doing a lot of testing, but my honest opinion so far is this. Like, who the hell is really going to play in a scenario where you've got GTX 1080 Ti, and you are playing on medium graphics settings, and obviously I'm slightly paraphrasing what some sites are doing for their tests, and then you're complaining that you're getting only 190 frames a second in Ryzen 7, but you're getting like 220 with the equivalent Intel build. It just doesn't make sense. Most of the time you are GPU bound, but that said, sometimes you are CPU bound. So technically speaking, right now Intel are slightly ahead in certain games, and that's just kind of how it is. But I didn't really expect Intel to be out and out trounced by AMD, it would make absolutely no sense, especially given the clock speed disparity between the two. And this is going to be something that is going to improve over time. Basically what I'm saying is that if you need 8 cores, 16 threads for other tasks as well, let's face it, you're probably not just going to buy a Ryzen 7 strictly for gaming. There's probability that you're going to be doing video editing, virtual machine work, God knows what else. You're not really going to be missing out much in performance. But for those who are interested in, say, a Ryzen 5, which is arguably a really good value, like 6 cores, 12 threads, very nice price point, and you're concerned perhaps about the performance levels, well, it looks like developers are actually really working on this. And yes, of course, AMD did announce on stage that developers are, doing things. I guess where I'm going with this is lip service is very easy to say. And, developers did go on stage, said, hey, we are doing this and this and this, but to actually see tangible, real performance benefit that we can actually see. Just to clarify, actually the Singularity Escalation is the current available patch, so you can just download it right now and see a real difference. So go ahead and check it out. I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to be running off right now. Do check out my other video up today if you're also interested in seeing my face. I'm waving my hands and I just realised I'm actually not on camera right now. But yeah, you can see my face, and I was also going into some Ryzen 7 performance information in regards to how to get the best out of your machine. But with all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.